You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to yet another Minnesota Wild postcast as the Wild lose 5-2 in Game 4. And we break down the action for you here on Locked On Wild. Today's postcast is brought to you by Bet Online. They're your number one source for all of your betting stats and sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, including league reviews and news, as well as the NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and more. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. So head to their website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. You can find all of that and more at BetOnline, where the game starts. A 5-2 loss for the Minnesota Wild in Game 4, and really comes down to a very slow start for the Minnesota Wild in this one. They were flat out of the gates, and the St. Louis Blues able to use that momentum to carry them to a win here in this one. And you look at the fact that the St. Louis Blues were a desperate team coming into this game. They had numerous defensemen that were out, lost Marco Scandella during the game, and were playing very shorthanded on the blue line. They went to Jordan Binnington in net, guy who had not been in a game for quite a while, almost a month, and had a postseason losing streak coming into this game. And it felt like the Blues got their initial push as we expected that they would. And even with that happening, it was a game that the Wild were still very much in. It just could not overcome the flat start, in which I think the shots through the first period were something like 17-5. And the Blues were, they were getting a lot of energy. They were getting a lot of great looks, dominating in terms of puck possession. Marc-Andre Fleury had to make some very difficult saves early in this game to keep the Wild in it. And Blues get the score on a rebound that's tapped past Fleury. A tough rebound for sure. And at that point, you are assuming that the Wild are going to bounce back, which they did. They get a goal to make it 1-1. But then that stretch in the second period in which the Blues scored twice in a 54-second span, that was the opportunity that was created by the Wild not being on their game from the get-go. Because while the Blues were, the desperate team coming into this one, this was an opportunity for the Minnesota Wild to really take a firm hold of this series. And got to give some credit to the Blues for being the desperate team and playing like it and taking control of this game and getting the win. But as a lot of people have suggested, and I tend to agree, it didn't feel like the Wild had that intensity and that same lack of urgency, or that same urgency that the Blues did. I don't know if the team expected that the Blues were not going to be able to overcome the injuries, or if they just assumed that they'd be able to do the same things to Jordan Binnington that they did to Ville Husso. But it definitely was not the case for the Wild. It's just too little too late down the stretch for this team, and that's why we are heading to the Xcel Energy Center with the series tied 2-2 instead of the Wild up 3-1. Now, a couple of things to consider, having said all of this, is the Wild did accomplish their goal in the two games in St. Louis. Wild got home ice advantage back on their side. And so we head to the Xcel Energy Center with the Wild needing to win 2 of the next 3. 2 of those games both being at the Xcel Energy Center. So opportunity still very much there for the Minnesota Wild to win this series. It was a disappointing game to say the least, but make no mistake about it, the Blues came ready to play in this one, and the Wild were flat out of the gate, and that ended up being the difference. Now, there are some other things that we take away from this game, and we will dive into these much deeper in tomorrow's Locked On Wild and beyond. And we'll wrap up our Locked On Wild postcast with a couple of those talkers, including the Kevin Fiala, Matt Boldy, and Freddie Gaudreau line. Maybe starting to put something together they can build going forward, and just a rare off night for the grief line. We'll talk about that to finish today's Locked On Wild postcast after this. Summer is coming, which means that you are going to need that go-to snack that you can take with you wherever you're headed, no matter what you are doing, something that can give you some energy and keep you active during the summer. Now, if you're looking for that go-to treat, Built Bar is here to do just that. And the best part about a Built Bar is that if you want to eat healthier, Built Bar can help you do that without sacrificing in good tasting food. Built Bars are covered in 100% chocolate, which means you'll get to enjoy them while also feeling good about what you're eating. Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. You can compare that to your standard candy bar with right around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs, so you come out ahead when you go with Built Bar. And if you act right now, you can head to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Minnesota Wild lose 5-2 in Game 4. Blues even the series of 2 games apiece, heading to the Xcel Energy Center for Game 5 on Tuesday. The Kevin Fiala, Matt Boldy, Freddie Gaudreau line has certainly been quiet in the series so far. Matt Boldy did get a goal in this one to make it 3-2 right out of the gate in the third period, and a lot of frustration with, in particular, Kevin Fiala's performance with the amount of time that he spent in the penalty box and the fact that he still has yet to record a goal in this postseason. And it's been something that has happened to Fiala over the last couple of seasons. Just doesn't seem like he is scoring at the same pace that he is during the regular season. And this is the biggest difference, I think, with what we saw against the Vegas Golden Knights last year to what we saw this year, is that the Wild did not have the second line that could be the one to pick up the slack if, say, the Kaprizov line at the time, if they were getting shut down by the Golden Knights, there wasn't a line that was able to overcome that and to provide the scoring. It's pretty evident that the Blues have tried to neutralize the Fiala line in this series, and they've done so, which thankfully the Kaprizov line has been up to the task, and the Grief line has helped with some of that scoring that they have been able to add to the arsenal. So Grief line offensively really doing some good things, and we transition into talking about the Grief line. Not a great night for them, especially defensively here in this one tonight. It didn't feel like they had that same edge that they've had throughout the series, that it was a line that the Blues really attacked throughout the course of the game. And as a result, you look at Jordan Kyrou having a monster game in this one. It's something that I think will be a huge focus for this team, is trying to get those guys back on track for Game 5, because that's been a huge weapon for the Wild throughout the regular season into the postseason, is having Greenway, Eriksson Ek, and Foligno on their game, and really able to help neutralize the top line for opponents. So it's going to hopefully be a situation in Game 5 where we see some momentum for the Fiala line. lead to some good opportunities and a bounce back performance from the Grief line and for the Kaprizov line to continue to lead the way. Those are all the things that are going to need to be in the mix if the Wild are going to take the 3-2 lead in the series come Tuesday. All in all, the Wilds fall by a score of 5-2, but as we said, they gain home ice advantage back by winning one of the 2 games in St. Louis. So we head back to the Xcel Energy Center, all tied at 2 games apiece for Tuesday's tilt in Game 5. We will have plenty of reaction to what happened over the weekend, as well as looking ahead to the rest of the series on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Wild. So make sure you tune in and follow Locked On Wild wherever you listen to podcasts so that you can stay up to date on your favorite Minnesota hockey team. We've got new episodes coming every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.